Welcome to San Joaquin Spotlight, a public affairs program featuring conversations about life in the central San Joaquin Valley. This program is brought to you in partnership between KFSR 90.7 FM and CMAC Fresno. I'm your host, Sevag Tateosian. Today, we're going to be talking about a charter school in downtown Fresno. The school's name is ACEL Charter School, with Principal Stephen Morris. Mr. Morris, welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a delight to be here.
So this is your first time actually being on the televised version of San Joaquin Spotlight.
Very true.
Little different studio here this time around.
This is nice.
Very
like
nice.
This.
Yeah, thank you. You know, CMAC is a great facility to be producing and doing shows like this. So we couldn't do it without the awesome team at CMAC.
Definitely.
So ACEL Charter School. Talk about what ACEL even stands for.
Good question, because we use that acronym a lot. People say, well, what does that mean? It means Academy of Civic and Entrepreneurial Leadership. Big words. And we're hiring a French teacher, and she was telling me that entrepreneur in French really means adventure, like business adventure. But sometimes we just think about it as people starting these new things, but that's an adventure, right? So that's the name of our school.
So you're hiring a French teacher. So
yes.
The students are going to have an opportunity to take French as an elective?
Yes. You know, we follow A to G requirements. Those are the courses that students need in order to get into a UC system or get at CSU. And we've been offering Spanish, but last year we had 27 students ask for French. And some of those were Spanish-speaking students. Yeah. So I said, I got to find a French teacher, right? So we've been looking. It's been difficult to find a certificated French teacher to come in and teach with us. So we have one of our teachers who is teaching now a French club. Now the students don't get credit for it, but they love going there in the after-school program and talking in French.
Before we get into the curriculum and the programs that you offer, the after-school program, I want to talk about the difference between your school and a regular high school, because a charter school is similar to a regular high school?
Yes, in a lot of ways. In fact, it is a public school. I think the big difference is we don't have some of the same restrictions in terms of unions or guidelines with structures and facilities that a traditional public school would have. It also helps us in the fact that we don't have all the issues with security that your traditional public school would have. Kids come to a charter school by choice. Parents actually look us up and they bring their kids there and they say, oh, I like this. And so then they choose to come to our school. That choice is a big issue, because when the charter school movement started 20 years ago, it was all about how do we give students who had no choice and they were in failing public schools the opportunity to go to schools that were more successful. So 20 years ago, I believe it was in Wisconsin, this movement started, and it began to catch on across the nation. In actually some cases in New York, it became a civil rights issue. And it was an issue of students of color receiving less quality education in those traditionally failing schools than kids across town. And so a lot of parents took up that issue, and some say that 20 years later, it probably will be the biggest civil rights issue in America, dealing with choice and rights of parents in failing schools to have other options.
If I have a high school student, even though I don't live anywhere near your charter school, can I still bring my child to your school, and is there a fee to that?
Oh, absolutely no fee. Let me start there.
No fee.
And you can't. I think that's the other difference, and that's some of the reasons for the issues of civil rights, because traditional schools have attendance boundaries. And sometimes those boundaries are based on residence. If a particular ethnic group lived in this area and their schools are doing really well, it's based on residential boundaries with that. Well, if you take away those boundaries, you can have kids come from anywhere to that school without missing that quality education. So we have kids driving from Madera, from Kingsburg, from Selma, from Kerman, coming to our school because of this matter of choice, and they like the type of education that we have, which is more, some have described it more like a university setting, with kids choosing the things they're interested in and teachers that are involved in relationships with those students.
So I can't let you out of here without asking you the question about the content or the curriculum. Is it the same? I mean, sometimes there's this misconception that a certain area of town that's north,
Yeah.
located north of us and east of us, have the best teachers and the best schools.
Yes.
But how do your teachers compare?
Well, I won't tell you that we have students coming from Clovis and that we had a 94% graduation rate. Bullard had 92. And our goal this year is 100% graduation. But our teachers are all certified and highly qualified teachers, as No Child Left Behind asked them to be. I think the difference in our curriculum is that it's relevant, it relates to what's going on today, it's real, kids identify with it, it's open source. We use things on the internet to bring in that relevant information, and teachers that have those relationships with those kids, you know, all of a sudden it becomes more real. And we add the rigor because we combine it with the Common Core, or last year it was with the state standards, content standards, but this year we're retooling, as every school is in California right now, or actually the nation, to prepare for Common Core education. So all our classes are based on those Common Core standards, but we add that rigor, that relevancy to it, and that sweet thing called relationship between student and teacher.
Your teachers, how many of them do you have? And talk about your class sizes.
We have 10 teachers. Our largest class right now, we're still leveling, but our largest class is 28. We try to keep those sizes down to about 25 at the most because it allows for that interaction between teacher and student. And we're doing something that some schools went away from. We're doing a block schedule. Our classes are 100 minutes long, but in that time, students really get to work on their own projects. Our focus would be a project-based education in a technology-rich environment. We don't use textbooks, so kids either operate with their own tablets that they bring, their smartphones, or we provide a computer for them so they can do their work in class and even check it out to take home if they don't have internet at home. So that's that equity and access piece for students that have no access to internet at home. What are they going to do when your teacher assigns you to do this research? Well, we check one out to them that has 3 and 4G built into it.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's better than the one I have at home.
We try to get the best for our kids.
So why, as a parent, why should I send my kids to your school? I mean, let's say I live in a good school district and, you know, I'm on the fence.
Yes.
Why would you say I should send my kid to your school?
If you see your child struggling in that traditional environment with large classroom sizes where teachers aren't spending time with your child and your child is that creative student that just needs the opportunity to flourish, then you want to look at charter schools. And it's not just our charter school. Got to put in a plug for all charter schools, but we're good. It's that idea where you can choose to have your child get that individual attention and get somewhere where people are going to monitor not only their academic growth, but their personal growth. So if you find your child struggling and they need a place where they can go feel secure, check out charter schools as an alternative maybe to a private school or home education. And you'll find that social environment of other kids like your student that love to be creative, love this opportunity to be themselves, and welcome kids that are different like them. Now, it's not for everyone. There are some students that probably wouldn't flourish well in a charter school, but again, it's a school of choice. You choose what's best for you and your child.
I want to ask you about school after high school. Now, there was a movement, or there is a movement, to say that every child needs a college education to be successful.
Yes.
If you have a child in your school that doesn't want to go to college, do you force them or do you encourage them to?
No, I think the big thing with charter schools, and some public schools are trying to go this way too, where they're trying to help students be college and career ready, without labeling students, because in the 60s and 70s when I grew up, students of color were oftentimes labeled as, because of your color, you're going to be a mechanic or you're going to do yard work, and shops were all closed down in the 70s because of that fear. But now what we're trying to say is, if a student is gifted in that area, let them go ahead and excel in that and do very well at it. Now, charter schools have the advantage because they're smaller, they're built on a mission and a purpose anyway, and that purpose drives them. So we can look at career development or college preparation and bring both of those two together to work hand in hand to meet a student's needs. And we have great opportunities for our students. like we start businesses in our entrepreneur program, that's also in our name, but we start businesses and we allow students to have this chance to grow and explore. First semester, it's all about, you know, the economic facts and the core, the standards. But then the second part of that semester, you need to start a business. Team up with someone, partner with a group of kids, and start a business. This last year, we had 6 businesses that started.
Six actual businesses.
6 real businesses, and they got a micro loan from one of the banks here in town to help start their business. We had kids do a skateboard design business, beautiful skateboards. We had another group of kids get together and decide the California standards for food and nutrition are kind of difficult to follow, and it prevents us from selling snacks to earn money. So why don't we create a business and call it Snackety Snacks? And so they took the California nutrition standards, the kids did this, learned what those were, started a business where they sold snacks during school hours, called Snackety Snacks. We had another group of kids start a business on spiritware. We had 4 or 5 groups of kids that went out and decided, hey, we're good at technology, building websites, and working on computer repair. So they started building websites for nonprofit organizations in the community, like we did for Lowell Neighborhood and other communities. Free of charge, our kids built the website for them to get their name out that they can actually build a website and run it. So they actually ran their businesses in that second semester. Some kids made money, some didn't, but isn't that the way business is? I mean, you learn in this process.
What do the kids say? I mean, you have an opportunity to talk to kids one-on-one. Are they saying good things about joining your charter school? I mean, you mentioned that they've come from Madera, they've come from Kingsburg.
Yes.
So they are traveling away from their hometown to come to your school.
Yes.
Are they saying good things?
It's amazing when you hear our kids talk about the uniqueness in our school and the relationship they have with their teachers. For instance, our activities group is preparing a big sidewalk festival to commemorate 9/11. So the kids are in planning it, designing it, using comic book heroes. They're taking their own interest and putting that into reality, into school. And they're saying we could never do this at our home school. And today, just before I came over here, there was a student that I had to talk to about discipline. We do have discipline issues. We do a lot with conflict mediation with that and try to get students to work out their issues. And as we were going through the process and talking it through, he said, "Dang, Mr. Morris, they wouldn't do this at my other school. They just kicked me out." And I said, "Dude, we're a school of choice. We're here for you. If you can work with us and choose to be here, you're going to be here." And we hear it constantly. We have kids with pink hair, blue hair. We have kids, some have piercing, different clothes, because it's not about that outward physical appearance. It's about having a place where these creative, intelligent kids can feel safe to talk, to be, and to grow in an academic setting.
On the issue of safety at your
Yes.
school, I've noticed that, because I've visited you a couple of
Yes.
times, you have a lot of locked doors around. I mean, why is that? And then 20 years ago, did you have locked doors when you were in school?
That's amazing how our society has changed. 20 years ago, I would not have imagined schools being locked the way they are today. We lived in South Central Los Angeles from 1978 to 1989. Some of the worst gang warfare happened at that time between the Crips and the Bloods. And never once do I ever remember hearing them saying, we got to shut down the school because they're coming on the school to attack. There shootings going on right there. Yeah. Now, today, we just see it, and there's these random shootings that are everywhere. We're all affected by Sandy Hook. We're affected because of that loss of innocent life and such young children. We're affected because it becomes a mentality now for people to find that acceptable. So yes, we have to lock our doors, and yes, we have to do a few things that we didn't do before to guarantee that students are safe when they come in our school. And we're downtown. And unfortunately, downtown has a dubious reputation of not being safe. But it's one of the safest places to be, with that. So we do things to protect our kids and their families.
On the topic of downtown, why did you decide to locate your school in downtown? You could have gone to tons of other locations, including one side of a town that's very north of us and very east of us.
Yes.
But you decided that you wanted to be in downtown. Why?
What better place The culture is alive. This is the heart of the city. And the history here is real. When kids and parents come into the city and they see buildings, our building was built in 1898. It's the original train station for Fresno. And when people see that, they say, oh, this is amazing. This is a part of history that's forgotten. Well, now it comes alive again. And there's so many artists that are coming up and developing in downtown Fresno with art hop adventures, the museums that are there. All of a sudden, that becomes a rich environment for our kids to become part of and enjoy that. So I couldn't think of a better place to choose than downtown Fresno. Plus, it's central to everything. And as a school of choice, we don't have busing. So our kids take public transportation. And one of the main bus stops is right near our school.
Talk about the public transportation a little bit. Are you finding that it's accommodating? I mean, a lot of people out there will criticize the bus system and complain about long waits, but is the bus system getting kids there on time and taking them home on time?
That's interesting because students at our school starts at 8:45, right? Students start coming at 7 and 7:15, and they come to hang out, play their guitars, play the piano, and eat. So they ride the buses. They come throughout between 7 and 8:45, and they're there on time. I think we have 2 students I got to talk to, but for the most part, public transportation is doing that job. And when school is out, there are buses for them to take when they go home at 3:30, or if they stay in the after-school program to 6:30, there's public transportation available for them. One of the big problems with charter schools is that we're not funded fully as the traditional public schools. Traditional public schools have allowances for transportation. We don't. And so when we buy bus tokens, it comes out of our general budget to allow students to come from, clear across the west side of town or east side of town to come downtown and ride those buses. So we pay for it. But again, we're a school of choice, and it makes those students who do not have a car, their families only have one vehicle or it's not working, to provide the ability for them to come to school and to learn.
You mentioned funding. Can you tell us where your funding comes from?
Yes. All our funding comes from the state of California and the federal government through No Child Left Behind. It's based on their attendance in our school. And even then, charter schools do not get fully funded as traditional public schools. So we have to do a lot of fundraising on our own, write our own grants to develop those other resources. But for most charter schools, I'd probably say 90% of their operating budget is all student attendance. And if those numbers drop, so does the ability of the charter school to fund staff and innovative programs that make choice more exciting.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the programs that you're offering at your school, the after-school program being one of those. If I'm a parent and my child goes to your school, is there an additional charge for the after-school program?
No charge whatsoever, and that's really cool with our program. We just applied for and got through the Fresno County Office of Ed an after-school grant that will allow us to stay open till 6:30 at night. So what's cool, if parents are working downtown here and they need a high school for their student to go to, their child to go to, they can come to our school and know their child's going to get supper and a snack and be there in a safe environment having fun during that after-school program. And in that after-school program, it's really cool. We have driver's ed, driver's training for kids that will be 15 and a half by December. French, we put that in the after-school program. The music band, and our music is it's real, it's live. We have a music teacher who R&B, Tejano, what else was he? Jazz and blues and classic music as well. He does all of that, and the students love that, and they're finding their identity in that. We have our Spanish classes. We have our entrepreneur classes have a lab, so students can work on their businesses and after-school hours as well. So we have a variety of things that make it exciting for kids. And then we have gaming. Oh, my.
Oh, the video games.
Yes, kids are building their own video games. It's amazing. And then after school, they're competing with each other on the games that they made during class. And we're working with CMAC right now to develop a video editing program for our students, which they're all excited about. They can't wait to get over here. So we have this variety of stuff that draws kids in, that allow them to play to their interests with that in the after-school program. And it's all free.
Let's talk a little bit about lunch and the food that's offered at your school. Do you offer free lunch for students?
We offer part of the free and reduced lunch. And that means that students who are not able to pay get can eat free, and those who may get a reduction. And we're asking those who are able to pay to please pay. It's been a real adventure for us for finding a right lunch venue over there. Oh my gosh. We tried some stuff with cold sandwiches and peanut butter and jelly, drove the kids bananas. Yeah.
So the kids are telling you these are not very good
We don't like
sandwiches.
this, Mr. Morris. You need to do something else. So we went through 3 vendors for the after-school program, and now we got this cool group out of Oakland called Revolution Foods, all healthy, nutrition, hot foods that the kids love. In fact, this organization is so awesome that they have partnered with us to develop a health and wellness sustainability grant for teenagers in Fresno County. And they're working with our kids and looking at nutrition from research perspective and how that affects teenagers that are going to school. And they're partnering with us in this grant. So now we have this great vendor. And today, chicken sandwiches with real chicken, not processed chicken over there. Oh my gosh. And the kids were all just, what does that smell, Mr. Morris? They couldn't wait to eat. So I think we got it now.
And so are they bringing the food from Oakland to here?
Bring the
or
food, yeah.
How does that process work?
There's a big truck that usually comes on Sunday night. And I was there the first night. And, it's food that we have to mix and put together sometimes. So it's like fresh for the kids when they get it. We heat it up. We had to buy a big oven to heat it, and that smell of fresh bread, warming up. Oh my gosh. And the vegetables, and we have a vegetarian selection for our kids that are vegetarians. They bring it down, frozen in some parts. We put it together, and we serve it to the kids.
So it's like a typical school. The food that's offered there is food that you would find, or maybe even better, than you would find at a cafeteria.
I think our kids would say better, because we tried the school, the food that most schools around here get, and it was like a mass revolution in the negative sense against those type of lunches that we were providing. But now they have taken on to this real meatballs and spaghetti that they love. Juices that are blended, that are real and natural and whole for them. So yeah, I think it's a little bit better. At least that's from the kids, what they say.
Can you use more students? I mean, I know that as a charter school, you have to worry about the size and the number of enrollment and the size of the classrooms and the size of the actual building.
Yes.
Talk about if you accept new students.
That's the key. Since we are driven, and all charter schools are, by attendance of students, and this idea of parents and students choosing us, we need to set a limit to the number of students we can take. Our number right now is 170. In January, it'll be 185. We will not grow larger than 200 students. That gives us the basic budget to operate and to provide these quality, innovative programs that you don't find in your traditional public schools. So that becomes real important for us to always monitor those limits, make sure our classroom sizes don't grow, make sure students and teachers are involved in those relationships, and make sure teachers have time to plan not only the lesson planning, but planning how they interact with their students to meet the various needs of their students that they have in the classroom. So that attendance thing is very important for us, and we have to constantly monitor it. We now have a waiting list for 11th grade students. We can take 5 more in 12th grade, and we can take 9 in 10th grade and 10 in 9th grade.
That's incredible.
Yes.
Talk about the other programs that you're offering. I mean, you talked about video game creation.
Yeah.
So is there a list that students can pick as electives, or how does that work?
Yes, we have a list that students can pick. In fact, this was the first year that we actually sent that list out over the summer so students can choose their classes, and we had those classes ready for them in the fall. Art has just been phenomenal. Our art program, if you walk down the hallways in our building, you'll see student art everywhere. This is stuff that they drew, they painted, they made out of clay, 3D figures. For 3 years in a row, our students have been involved with the Fresno Philharmonic Orchestra, where our students' artwork has been shown in the background while the orchestra has played. I believe 3 years ago it was Wizard of Oz. Last year, 2 years ago, it was Beethoven. And then last year, it was galaxies and solar systems and planets. So in art classes, our kids created these spray paint galaxies using spray cans for good reasons over there to create these wondrous scenes of outer space and the universe. And they were used at the Fresno Philharmonic. Other groups have contracted with our art department to put in neighborhood murals. And so our kids actually got to meet with community residents to understand their passion and their history of those communities, and then try and create artwork that would express that so communities can have that in their neighborhoods as a point of pride for who they are. So we have art program, the music program, the business program, the health and wellness. So many of our students got involved in creating this idea of local, healthy, grown organic food that we got involved with the Fresno Grizzlies. And we have a great partnership with them and a community garden. It's the only community garden in a Major League Baseball stadium in America. It's right here in Fresno, downtown.
Your students are the ones that made that happen.
Our students did that,
I
yes.
was wondering. I read the paper and it had the story on that.
Yes.
So congratulations. I wondered where these students were coming from.
Yes.
We are running out of time this week on the program. I can talk to you for hours and hours and hours. There's a ton of other stuff that we'll cover next time when you come back on the program.
I'd love it.
How can people find out more information about all the cool stuff you're talking about? How can they get a hold of you if they have any questions? And are you available for the public?
Oh, absolutely available for the public. We love you to come and see what we're doing. When you see, you understand this unique program. And if you're there with your child, please bring your child. They're going to fall in love with it or they won't. And if they do, you're going to say, finally got a solution for my kid. But you can go to our website, fresnoacel.org, and you can see all the information about our school, programs that the kids have designed, newspapers, information that would be very helpful in you deciding, is this a good place for my child or not? You can also call us at 559-408-7077 and ask to speak to me or any of our staff, and they would be happy to meet with you and tell you and set up a tour for you to come and see the wonderful things we do at ACEL.
One sentence. Why should parents send kids to your school?
It's a matter of choice, and it's a matter of really caring for your child's growth and development beyond test scores, beyond just academics, but real character. So check us out.
That's all for this edition of San Joaquin Spotlight. Thank you to our guest, Mr. Stephen Morris, principal of ACEL Charter School here in downtown Fresno. Thank you to the CMAC studio facilities, to the CMAC staff, and everybody who made this production possible, including the volunteers behind the camera and behind the computers. Thank you to 90.7 KFSR Fresno. Thank you for tuning in, watching us here on CMAC, listening to us on the radio. We'll be back next week with a new edition.